How's it going? Sunday evening, about 6 o'clock, September the 4th. Just relaxing, drinking some coffee. My wife cut my hair today, so looks a little better. Anyways, I was at church today, and I gave the music guitar player one of those attack picks that I did a review on video. You can look that up, the attack pick review video. It says pick with ridges on it that makes a 6-string sound kind of like a 12-string, not a true 12-string, but it's kind of because the ridges pull on the strings and it actually hits the strings like 3 or 4 times before you pick it up, and it makes a cool effect. And he really enjoyed that. The pastor talked about money today as part of his Sermon on the Mount series. And he was speaking out of, all parts of the Bible, New and Old Testament. And not money itself, but about how people feel about money. And I've noticed, and I think it's true, that more people covet money that don't have money than covet money that do have money. When you realize money's just a tool, one of the many tools, and it can be used for good or evil. We see how money's used for evil all over the world now, and used for power. But there was a long time in my life when I had no money. I was scratching by and thought, man, if I only had the money, all my problems would be over, and everything's fine and cool and no more problems because I got money, Well, I've worked hard for 50 years and I got a little money, not a lot of money, but enough to get by and pay the bills. And I don't think I want any more, just enough to get by and pay the bills. I'd like to retire at some point in the next, 5-6 years. But I've noticed now that I do have a little money, I don't think about it hardly at all, I go through the finances and I keep on top of stuff, and, I use Quicken and I pay the bills ahead of time and all that stuff, and, try and keep a good credit rating. But it no longer encompasses all of my forethoughts like it did when I was dead poor and trying to feed babies. And I think that's where God wants us to be. He doesn't want us to, covet money. He says the love of money is the root of all evil. And whenever he talks about money, he talks about the eye and not the heart. Don't take money to heart. Money's something you see, something you want. If you need something, ask for it. Ask God. And if he doesn't give for you, then you don't need it, because God will give you what you need. I always got what I needed. Even when I had no money, I never had to sleep in the street. My kids never starved. I always made it to work, sometimes on a prayer, but I made it to work. And there was times I had to have garage sales, for gas money and groceries. There was times when, unbeknownst to me, the church would take a collection to help me out with my rent, And when those guys would take those collections in the evening, if somebody needs help, and I didn't tell anybody. This is back in my 20s. I didn't tell anybody that I was having trouble making the rent for my little apartment that month. But somebody knew, somebody, because at an evening service, I was sitting there and, and it's always before everybody leaves, we need to take a quick offering. Somebody's having trouble, we want to help them out. So they, pass the plates around and I put $5 in whenever I had, because, I know what it's like. I want to help people out. And then, afterwards, the assistant pastor would come up, well, it's all alone. He says, this is for you, pay your rent. And, my rent at the time, this is in California in the 80s, and things were always stupid expensive in Southern California. My rent was $472. And just like another thing I did about 2431, you should look that one up. There was $472 in that envelope. Not a penny less, not a penny more. And I paid the rent that month, and we're able to go to the grocery store and get some groceries and feed my kids, my two little babies. But money's always going to be there in some form or another, whether it's through bartering, it's through making stuff, trading goods for goods like they used to do. Back in the old days, there were no, they had a bank and people took money, but it would be easier. I got some corn and you got some beans, and, I'd like to have some beans. And the other guy, well, I'd like to have some corn, So they would grow enough for everybody, and they would trade off and barter stuff, Some person had chicken, some person had beef, and and it worked out good. Sometimes I wish they'd bring those days back, but they probably never will. But until then, have a good evening. We'll be back with some music tomorrow. And some more. I'll plan something, do another episode of the One Walk 1000 Testimony series. Till then, have a good evening. God bless you, and keep your coffee warm.